The zone can't stay quiet for long, she gets bored. That's why after weeks of silence, GSC released a new trailer for the Cost of Hope expansion, as well as an article to go alongside it. Before we begin, I must warn you that my analysis will utilize elements from the conclusions of the quests added in the 1.8 Stories Untold and 1.9 Sealed Truth updates, as well as elements found in the Almanac. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you will get spoiled, so keep that in mind. The trailer opens with a beautiful wide shot of the Iron Forest, an entire region of the zone that will become available in the expansion. As the former electrical station of the Chornobyl nuclear power plant, it is filled with power lines, pylons and other antennas. It will also contain many electrical anomalies, and some of them can be seen in the form of arcs between the poles. Then we get to see the location more up close, with Skiff finding his way through the rubble and rusting equipment. You may have noticed some of the antennas that are extremely similar to those of the Brain Scorcher. They actually look the same. Since we know that the Brain Scorcher was not the only installation that prevented stalkers from reaching the zone's center, I am pretty sure these antennas were also once part of the network of psi fields set up by Sea Consciousness. Most likely, all of them went down during the events of Shadow of Chernobyl. Another standout of the scene is the new G3 weapon, equipped with a new accessory. Some say it is a thermal or night vision scope, but I think this is actually the Suzat, coming back straight from the original trilogy. In fact, we expect several new weapon attachments to be added in the DLC. Speaking of new, there will be new anomalies as well, like this one, floating light bulbs sparking and overflowing with electricity. I guess Skiff needs to walk where the bulbs are not lit up to avoid an electrical shock, and the bulbs will turn on and off periodically. The article also promises new arch anomalies too, so I bet we will see an electrical arch anomaly somewhere in the Iron Forest. Besides, who says new anomalies also says new artifacts, right? And man, look at that fog. It reminds me of the CNPP teaser from the beginning of the year, as well as the original weather around the plant back in Shadow of Chernobyl. Later in the trailer, we briefly see a device that malfunctions, sending sparks towards a Skiff. If we take a close look at the background, we can clearly deduce this takes place on top of a tower located in the Iron Forest. There's already a theory about the numbers on the antenna that could hint at an August 17th release date, yet I think it is bullshit. I do have a theory about the device itself though, but in order to piece it together we first need to take a look at another scene. Here Mavka starts climbing a tower, also most likely located in the Iron Forest. Is it the same tower as the previous one? Perhaps, or at least it seems similar. I think Skiff and Mavka are on a mission in this region, and the strange contraption is part of their plan. My theory is that it is some kind of relay antenna for the aggression suppressor, a device that supposedly would be very useful in the Iron Forest. You see, finding the emitter for the aggression suppressor was the whole point of the quest added in the 1.9 Sealed Truth update, acting as a teaser for Cost of Hope. Indeed, the professor who tinkered with the emitter directly mentions the Iron Forest, and it was revealed he had been hired by Lukács to deliver the emitter. Lukács, the previous leader of Freedom before Mikluha replaced him, whom we know was a mentor to Mavka and seems to be planning to return. Now, what is the purpose of the aggression suppressor? It pacifies zombies. Remember when I said that the Iron Forest has many psi antennas? Well, my theory is that the location is home to a large number of zombies, because it used to be covered by psi fields, and the only way to go there safely is to somehow neutralize these zombies. Thus, Skiff and Mavka will have to connect relay antennas to the main aggression suppressor emitter, rendering the zombies harmless. This remains just a guess for now, so we shall see what's really going on when the expansion comes out. As for Mavka, the almanac has some artwork of her sliding down a rope in what looks like the Iron Forest. Maybe this will happen from the top of the same tower she is climbing in this trailer. Who knows? Obviously, Mavka is one of the main characters of Cost of Hope, along with Zulu. We now got confirmation that the two will collaborate despite their opposing factions, as showcased with this scene in a corridor, possibly from inside the CNPP. Zulu is equipped with a special Saiga shotgun and his shovel, while Mavka has a scoped G3, nice band wrists, and sophisticated earrings. After the characters make their way through the corridor, they prepare to breach a door. It's pretty funny to me how they both have these badass weapons, while Skiff is holding his tiny pistol. According to the article, Zulu once left the Duty faction, but he came back at Voronin's personal request. Let's hear what the General of Duty has to say about him.
Zulu has a beast inside him, but he also has a leash he keeps that beast on.
Voronin refers to the fact Zulu is subject to outbursts of extreme anger and violence, but he tries to contain them. In fact, a very short scene depicts him throwing his fists against the metal of the monorail. This is the same monorail we've seen in the previous trailer, which connects some of the facilities of the X network via underground. The monorail was once used by military evacuation units to reach Lab X-19 under the CNPP, although only 2 of the soldiers returned alive. Now we suspect Skiff and his allies will find a way to use this transport system once again, and travel to the center of the zone. It's interesting that in the various monorail scenes, Zulu is using an AK with grenade launcher instead of his usual Saiga. Perhaps he will lose it or even give it to Skiff as a gift. There's also a short bit with Zulu fighting in a cave, possibly an underground location connected with the monorail complex, but we can't say for sure right now. Moving on to Mavka.
There's no other way to change things, Skiff.
I think she is referring to her collaboration with Zulu, something that should not happen considering they belong to enemy factions, especially after the D4 treaty broke down following the monolith signal. It seems both Mavka and Zulu are ready to go against the orders of their respective leaders, Mikluha and Voronin, in order to achieve their goals. Anyway, it's strange to see Mavka in the void like this, and this is far from being the only weird phenomenon in this trailer, let alone the whole expansion. It looks like Cost of Hope will bring back a more bizarre, mysterious, and incomprehensible side of the zone, with the best example of this being Lymansk.
We found a whole city that shouldn't even exist.
Skiff is obviously talking about Lymansk, the legendary town that will play a key role in Cost of Hope. Apparently, the entire place has become a spatial anomaly, like a bubble where reality feels like a dream and stalkers become trapped, unable to ever find a way out. Here is an ominous shot of a yard from the town. I am pretty sure that the huge facade in the background belongs to the Radio Wave Institute, the heart of Lymansk. Overall, the location looks very moody. Dark fog, twisted trees, old lamp posts inexplicably still lit after all these years, and the same goes for the beacon light of a derelict fire truck. In another scene, Skiff is taking a stroll in one of the streets. The architecture is instantly recognizable. There can be no mistake. This is in fact Lymansk. In the background, the looming silhouette of a giant building with a neon sign Radio Wave Institute. It was there that scientists once developed modifications to turn the Dugout into a psi emitter, using a small-scale replica of the famous array. We've yet to see how this landmark looks in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, but I have no doubt that it will be there. In fact, what Mavka was climbing here could be part of the Dugout replica, but I'm more inclined to believe this is the Iron Forest. Back to Lymansk, I'm not sure if there's a lower level here covered in thick fog, or if it's actually supposed to be a bottomless pit as part of the space anomaly. Perhaps the rumors that Lymansk will once again be a linear level have some truth to them. Let's not forget the new rifle weapon held by Skiff, possibly a hybrid between the SKS and SVT-40. Moving on to the interiors, we enter one of the houses, where everything is upside down. Skiff walks on the ceiling. Some objects just float in the air while others remain stuck to what used to be the floor, now above. I wonder if this will just be some kind of visual anomaly, or if there is more to it when it comes to how the player can interact with it. In another room, the floor is missing, but objects still remain suspended, and Skiff walks over without falling through. Seems like they cranked up the weirdness to the max with Lymansk. The strange vibe carries on to this sequence where Skiff sprints down a corridor full of shelves and drawers, perhaps an archive of some sort. Once again we see floating objects, making me believe this also takes place somewhere in Lymansk. According to Zulu,
These miracles of the zone always come with a catch.
this sentence makes sense considering he believes in Duty's ideology that the zone must be destroyed. Pragmatically, Zulu acknowledges that the zone is capable of performing miracles, but he considers the associated downsides to be too much to accept. Now, remember the moment from the previous trailer where a Dutier in exoskeleton was choking Skiff? He's back, this time with an AK. Here it looks like the guy cannot see our protagonist as he gazes right through him, and in the background, another stalker. It might be a Dutier wearing a PSZ-5, but I cannot see a patch on his arm, so there is the theory it is actually Skiff. I mean, he's the only character to be depicted in such all-black clothes in the entire game. The idea is that the anomalous nature of Lymansk distorts not only space but also time itself, and here Skiff is able to see himself either from the future or the past. Most likely this has to do with the strange effect at the edges of the screen. There is also the possibility we are looking through the eyes of someone else than Skiff, similarly to Strider's flashbacks. Initially, I thought it could be Mavka's point of view, considering the scoped G3 weapon, but the forearm and glove do not match at all. When the last trailer dropped, I theorized that the Dutier could be Jaeger, and the location might be the Red Fortress, but now I have completely changed my mind. This most likely takes place inside the Radio Wave Institute instead, and the man is probably none other than General Tachenko, the legendary founder of the Duty faction. Indeed, it was revealed in the almanac that Tachenko died in a space anomaly, but we suspect the anomalous nature of Lymansk, which is suspended in some kind of limbo, could have trapped a version of him that lives on. This ties back to the old concepts about the zone and space bubbles being able to create copies of an individual, something I actually expected to return at some point. Anyway, we don't know what will happen when we meet Tachenko. Perhaps we'll be able to side with him and help him escape Lymansk, or he will be an enemy. When on screen, Zulu declares,
I always remember who my real enemy is.
This could simply be referring to the zone itself, yet it might also concern Tachenko directly. Perhaps siding with the Zulu will result in Tachenko being a boss fight, and there is even the theory that Skiff will be the one to kill Tachenko inside the limbo of Lymansk, somehow resulting in his death in the past. Obviously, what happens will depend on our choices as the player, since we know the story of Cost of Hope is set to change relatively to our actions, just like the main story of Heart of Chernobyl.
Why is this area so dangerous?
This place is the root of all evil in the zone. Get ready. It's about to get serious.
I think the place Skiff and Zulu are talking about is the CNPP, or rather, what's hidden inside. Before we enter, let's take a look at the premises, starting with this night shot of the northern part of the plant, very close to the old destroyed generators. In fact, the top of one of the spheres can be seen above the buildings. Here is the exact same place in the game right now. So yes, this giant anomalous formation is emanating from the CNPP generators. Ever since it was teased within the almanac, some theories have appeared about it. According to some, the anomaly resembles a beam of noosphere energy, similar to what was there in Shadow of Chernobyl, and what was shown by Faust to Skiff at the Dugout. Maybe the connection between the generators and the noosphere was so strong that it continues to apply in the form of an anomaly, possibly an arch-anomaly, even after the spheres were destroyed. However, the beams now look more like a bouquet instead of a column going straight to the sky, so it could simply be remnants of anomalous energy from the time these generators were active. It might be the very rift in the noosphere that the Sea Consciousness representative once talked about, but I remind you that the exact purpose of this second set of generators has yet to be explained. I hope we will find out more about them when playing the expansion. I also wonder if we will be able to climb on top of the giant CNPP chimney. In another sequence, Skiff reloads a special cracker shotgun with new camo, sight, laser pointer and suppressor. We've actually seen this weapon already in the previous trailer. The corridor belongs to one of the buildings on the site of the CNPP. In fact, I found the exact place, which turns out to be the building right next to the generators. Reactors 3 and 4 can be seen in the distance in all their glory. The roof does not seem to be on fire anymore, but the crashed helicopter is still there, a remnant of previously failed military operations. Another downed chopper is seen more to the right, with some suggesting it might be the one from the main menu of Clear Sky. I wonder if we will find an RPG and minigun here. Next up, Skiff and Zulu share a handshake in a corridor, with duty soldiers standing ready to receive their orders. They are most likely the members of Zulu's special unit, composed of the fiercest warriors dedicated to cleanse the zone. One of them appears to be Roosevelt, a somewhat important character already in the current state of the game. Indeed, Roosevelt is the leader of the Commissary, a group of bandits backed up by duty to serve their interests within the garbage region. Skiff has the possibility to assassinate him on the orders of Varan, but if he is kept alive, we can meet him again after the signal. Due to the monolith storming their base, the Commissary was almost wiped out, but Roosevelt and a few of his men managed to bail out and take refuge at the cordon. Once again we get the opportunity to negotiate with Roosevelt or kill him. On his PDA is a conversation with Zulu, so it makes sense that both men knew each other pretty well. Probably he will only be there if the player previously spared him. Returning to the corridor, it is located again north of the CNPP, in the very same building next to the generators we've already seen, though on another facade this time around. Here's how it looks like in the current state of the game. So not only will we go there with Zulu, but he'll bring his own men as well, possibly setting up for an epic raid at the CNPP. Besides the Iron Forest, Lymansk and the power plant, we know that Cost of Hope will add several new underground and laboratory areas. In fact, the sole reason for reaching the CNPP seems to be raiding Laboratory X-19, the secret facility hidden underneath the sarcophagus. In this shot we see a large blast door opening, with the inscription X-19. This is it. the door towards the root of all evil in the zone, as Zulu would say. In fact, we learned in the almanac that this lab was responsible for creating the so-called psi-organisms, embryos in pods capable of interacting with the noosphere and using its energy. We already saw one such creature in the previous trailer, and now I'm quite sure it is located in X-19. Supposedly it is capable of creating unique anomalies similar to spatial ones, so the embryos could be responsible for the state of Lymansk. Moreover, a popular theory claims that the embryos can also control other mutants, hence why they would become a priority target for duty. As for freedom, perhaps they would prefer to use them as assets rather than destroying them. In any case, I believe that X-19 is the ultimate goal of the expansion, and my guess is that this is where its finale will take place. Our next stop is the infamous Lab X-16 located underneath the Yantar factory. Indeed, this scene takes place in some of the hallways of X-16, recognizable from its appearance in Shadow of Chornobyl, with the prison cells on the left, the shelves on the right, and the pipes running along the ceiling. We can even see the remains of the barricade that once stood there, along with bullet holes on the wall, marks of previous S.T.A.L.K.E.R raids within the lab. What did change is the atmosphere of the place. Less dark, yet more cold, with bluish projectors and a green glow stick lighting up the corridors. According to some fans, the scene contains two references to the mercenaries. The first is the special GB-37 held by Skiff, which formerly belonged to the Merc leader S.T.A.L.K.E.R. The second is the glow stick, that supposedly is a piece of equipment used by the Mercs. Updates 1.8 and 1.9 already teased that mercenaries will play a certain role in the story of Cost of Hope through new characters such as Nord, although the details of their involvement remain a mystery for the time being. Later in the trailer, Skiff and Zulu find themselves on the top floor of the laboratory, right next to the giant brain that was grown there as part of the Project X experiments. This powerful biological psi-emitter had been previously deactivated by S.T.A.L.K.E.R, but it seems to have woken up once again, and may be the source of the zombie FM signal that was studied in the story's Untold update. Zulu breaches open the door leading to the control room, from where they can turn off the machine, while Skiff uses his pistol to shoot down incoming projectiles that are being thrown at them via telekinesis. Unfortunately, Skiff is eventually hit badly by a crate and falls down the platform, plummeting to the lower levels of the large circular room. It is currently unknown if this is supposed to be a death animation in case the player fails to perform during the X-16 raid, or if this is an intended part of a cutscene and Skiff will somehow survive. In any case, the almanac gave us additional information about the brain, which the scientists actually called Ya-1M. It was created using the research results from X-19 as a basis, and served as a wide-range psi installation capable of processing large amounts of data from the noosphere. There was a project to connect the Ya-1M to the psi-organisms from X-19 by synchronizing their operations, but it is unknown if this was ever successful. Well, I think it was. You see, the X-16 emitter was never gifted with telekinesis before, but in the trailer it seems to be throwing boxes at the intruders. On the other hand, the embryos probably possess powers similar to the poltergeists. My theory is that someone or something managed to connect the Ya-1M to the X-19 creatures, allowing them to help each other by sharing their respective abilities. This could also explain why the brain suddenly became active after years of being dormant. Anyway, the almanac also mentions that the X-16 staff experimented on living test subjects, essentially prisoners, resulting in the creation of mutated humanoids with special abilities. Maybe one of them was the Cadaver, a new mutant to be introduced in Cost of Hope. We already saw it in the previous trailer, and now we see it again, still as brutal as ever. It remains unknown where the Cadaver will be found and what's its deal, but I've heard rumors about it being some kind of boss enemy that you must use stealth to defeat. Supposedly, if you get caught, it will charge at you and beat you to death, meaning what was shown is just a very cinematic death animation. I'm not sure if this will really be the case, but what I believe is that the power cells on its back will be its weak spot. Looking forward to meeting you, Mr. Cadaver. Next is a room where a bloodsucker has started to eat an unfortunate victim. I really hope this animation is not just a one-time event, but will be added for all bloodsuckers in the zone whenever they get their hands on a fresh corpse. Besides, some claim this creature has a different skin than the ones we're used to, hinting at new mutant variations. Honestly, I cannot tell for sure. About the location, it seems to be some kind of morgue, with freezers for storing dead bodies and an autopsy table. We even see that this old skeleton has rags of a lab coat. Because of these elements, I believe this could be in the Lymansk hospital that we briefly saw in the previous trailer. Both places even share the same style of operating room lights. In the Poltergeist family, I give you the Chemogeist. Always nice to see it considering how rare it is in the zone, even if it's gonna get its ass beaten by a Saiga. Now that reminds me, GSC, if you are watching, I have a request. Please, when you add Cold Island and Frozen Anomalies, we need a Cryogeist. That just would be so cool and complete the mutant collection. Anyway, I'm not sure where this place is. It kinda looks like X7, but it's probably X19 instead, or possibly a new part of X16, who knows. Another location I'm not certain about is this library or archive center, in which Skiff is fighting with some bandits. We see another glow stick here, and bandits are often hired by mercenaries, so it could be that these guys are working for Nord or the other mercs involved in the plot of Cost of Hope. The place looks a bit too clean for what we're used to in the zone, so it's hard to tell where it could be. One possibility is Lymansk, but I'm not sure about the bandits making it there. They did reach the city in the past, but that was before it became a huge-scale space anomaly. Option 2 would be the CNPP, in a building that had remained largely untouched due to being closed off to intruders for all these years. Yet once again, I doubt bandits would go there. My third guess is circa right after the signal. I'm sure the thugs from Zaton would love to raid the ruins to grab something valuable. Last but not least, it could be part of the Pripyat Underground, possibly a subsection of the Foundation. We shall see which one it is soon enough. Moving on to a brand new character called Chief. Wait, hold on. Brand new? Chief? That's clearly Bolshak, the dancer from that gameplay trailer all those years ago. We can even see that he kept his echo detector and radio equipment. Welcome back, my friend. Tell us about Mavka.
She's looking for something. Just like you, she can't find it. But there will be a story.
Alright, if you say so. When we first saw him back then, Bolshak, or Chief I guess, supposedly knew a way to some sort of basement, and Skiff needed to acquire the information from him. Perhaps this time around he will be the one to lead us to X16, the monorail, or even Lymansk. Considering his clothes, Chief is probably a technician, and he could be working for the scientists, seeing that the room appears to belong to a scientific bunker. The design of the walls, ceiling, door and ventilation grids is identical to the various bunker units found throughout the zone. But I can assure you, this room does not yet exist in the game. I checked all the bunkers currently present in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, and none of them contain this configuration of a door on the left and extractor grid on the back. So this is either an old bunker that has been redesigned or an entirely new location. Another returning character teased in the trailer is none other than Suslov, one of the original members of Clear Sky. He does not appear but has a few lines throughout the trailer.
Mavka helped me see that a poison can be a cure. I thought it would be my last day in the zone.
Change always requires sacrifice.
But such is the price of freedom.
Okay, I think this gives us a bit of an insight on Mavka's motivations in the story. In this case, the poison is probably the Psi embryos located in X-19, which I believe are the ultimate goal of Cost of Hope. While Zulu will certainly want to destroy them, Mavka sees their potential to be changed so that they can serve a useful and positive purpose instead of whatever they are currently doing. If the theory that embryos actually control the other mutants is true, learning how to influence the embryos themselves could lead to turning all the mutants into more passive creatures, allowing to solve this problem for stalkers without having to wipe out the entire ecosystem of the zone. This is definitely a plan I could see Freedom subscribe to, at least the old Freedom, before Mikluha took control. Anyway, back to Suslov. It sounds like he was about to die at some point, but was somehow saved. Maybe Mavka was the one who rescued him and that's how they got acquainted. Despite his appearance as a simple Clear Sky trader, Suslov was actually one of the most influential persons in the early history of the zone, being one of the top engineers of Project X. He created the Variometer, the device able to enhance the Psi connection between people, Psi installations and the noosphere. He also assembled the first exoskeleton prototype based on the design by Valentin Darlin. Back then he was a colleague of Lebedev and Kaloncha, and the three men decided to help Psi Consciousness and their allies of MDST. After they created the Clear Sky faction, they covertly operated under the direct orders of Psi Consciousness, as assessed by the evidence later found in the abandoned Clear Sky base. While the faction collapsed after its failed raid on the CNPP, we do know that Kaloncha survived because he has remained at their base, and the same can probably be said about Suslov. Therefore, if Suslov is still alive during Cost of Hope, there is a good chance Kaloncha will be there too, and through them we might learn more about the fate of Clear Sky and MDST. I actually have a wild theory to share. I think Kaloncha is involved in all of this. Involved in the reframing of S.T.A.L.K.E.R at the Neuro Laboratory. Involved in the revival of the X-16 brain via a connection to the X-19 Psi embryos. Involved in whatever is happening in Lymansk. He might even be the secret antagonist of Cost of Hope, and Suslov will attempt to stop him. What do you think? Am I crazy or does this sound plausible? Let me know in the comments. Well, that's all I could find in the trailer for the time being. I hope I didn't miss anything too important. Overall, I'm quite optimistic about Cost of Hope. Now we wait for a release date. We shall see if GSC can deliver. Until then, good hunting, stalkers.